You're listening to the Exploring Fitness Podcast, Episode 5. In this episode, Dr. Dan chats with a bodyweight movement expert about injuries, warming up, and being prepared for the flight response. In 3, 2, 1, go. I'm Dan Dalator. In over 10 years of experience as a clinician and a coach, I've worked with hundreds of athletes to help them improve their health, wellness, and fitness, but still feel that there is so much more for all of us to learn. This is a podcast dedicated to furthering our understanding of health, wellness, fitness, and how to apply these concepts into our daily lives to create true and lasting changes in your fitness and health. This is the Exploring Fitness Podcast. Every now and then, I get to meet someone who, for some reason or another, fascinates me. My next guest is one of those people. I feel like I learn something new about this individual every time I have the opportunity to speak with him, whether it's simply catching up over a beer or going on a multi-day backpacking trip together. I seem to always find new layers of knowledge, experiences, or interests I didn't previously know about him. During this episode, we dive into some of those experiences involving health and fitness. Welcome back, everybody, for another episode. My guest today, I was first introduced to back in 2018 at a continuing education retreat where he was teaching a group of about 30 physical therapists how to fall at a playground in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He has been a participant on American Ninja Warrior and is a published author. Ben Musholt, welcome to the Exploring Fitness Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Dan. Have you been practicing your falling skills and rolling skills like we taught 6 years ago?
Actually, there was handstand walking in our workout today, and I fell a couple times and practiced some of the techniques that you taught us. What was that now? 6 years ago.
Nice. Stayed away from the bony prominences and hit the big muscles, made some nice curved shapes.
You got it. Perfect.
Solid. Yeah.
Hey, Ben, first question I ask all of my guests. What is fitness to you?
Fitness to me is being able to approach any new activity with confidence because you have the capacity that's been built up from your prior exercise levels and movements you do throughout the day to kind of tackle any activity with just the wherewithal to jump right in and not think about, what your limitations are. So the more fit you are, the more capacity you have to enjoy life.
I love that. Capacity.
That's a big one.
Yeah. The name of the company is Infinite Capacity.
Love it.
It's very fitting. Perfect. Can you next just kind of jump into telling the audience a little bit about yourself, your background, who you are, what you do, that kind of thing?
Sure, yeah. I'm an OG physical therapist. I have the last bachelor's degree in the country. Graduated from the University of New Mexico in 2001. We were the last bachelor's degree program. And that was super intentional on my part. It was a transition time when I was looking at which colleges to go to. Thought, man, I can get through this in like 5 years. Heck yeah, I'm going to do that versus going the master's degree route. And it's fared well. Gone on for additional education past that, but that was the extent of my PT career. But probably should start years before that. I was a gymnast. I was a high school gymnast. And, that was through 14 through 18, did gymnastics as a little guy, of course, nothing club level like We weren't paying tons of money to travel around the state, but our high school had one of 4 gymnastics teams in the state of Wisconsin. So super lucky that I was able to participate in that as a public school student. Great experience, but it led me to a lot of gnarly injuries. I was also a skateboarder and have been doing karate since I was like 6. So I had, let's see, we should do a tour of the injuries. I had a tibial avulsion fracture. That was probably one of the gnarliest ones in gymnastics. I was a floor gymnast as well as parallel bars, and I was practicing my punch fronts, and I heard a pop, and I thought a kid like hit me with a wiffle ball bat or something. So it was in a busy gym, kids running around, and I grabbed my knee, dropped to the ground, and there was like skin pushed up, bone sticking through. Just grabbed my knee. I was young and didn't know what the heck was going on.
Oh
Coach
boy.
runs up, says, "Oh shit," covers his mouth and runs off. Also, tons of shoulder dislocations in high school. Gymnastics is hard on the body. We were learning giants, and then my coach would strap our hands to the bar. Giants, when you swing all the way around, strapped our hands to the bar with climbing webbing, and on the downswing, dislocated my shoulder, but I was still attached to the bar. And the team, I'm like screaming, "Bring a block! Bring a block!" So I could like get the weight off of it. So needless to say, I worked with physical therapists a ton as a young guy, probably starting in middle school with those like sprains and stuff. High school is when the big guns started happening, the fractures, the multiple dislocations. So I worked with PTs quite a bit and was really lucky, got out of high school kind of knowing I wanted to do PT. And yeah, I went to New Mexico, practice. After New Mexico, moved up to Oregon, kind of had a really diverse array of practice backgrounds, worked in hospitals, worked in SNFs quite a bit, outpatient clinics. And then around 2009, we started our own house calls practice. We were kind of the first house calls practice on the West Coast, and grew that. And I left the company in about 2019, 2018. During that time, I also developed some exercise software called BPMRX that physical therapists use to create exercise handouts for their patients, and went back, got a software degree, and now I'm working at a health tech company here in Maine. But staying fit as ever, still have my PT license here in Maine as well.
Awesome. So you already mentioned gymnastics, skateboarding. I know you've done a bunch of other activities fitness wise. Can you start talking about some of those?
Yeah, and so I guess kind of late 2000s started to get into parkour quite a bit. YouTube had just exploded 2006. We're starting to see lots of cool videos coming out of Europe and throughout the States of parkour athletes. And Buddy and I started really picking it up. This is how Ninja Warrior happened. And yeah, just train that pretty hardcore, similar to bouldering would boulder quite a bit. But parkour, in my mind back then, it was kind of that neat confluence between kind of street culture, skateboarding, and gymnastics. It was a little bit like street gymnastics. That's a horrible analogy at this point, but it's kind of how I was thinking about it at the time, is, jumping, and the capacity to do it on concrete is kind of where the true difference lies. Gymnastics, very controlled environment. You're on mats that have crash pads. That's not the case in the real world with parkour.
Do you have a truer definition of what you would consider parkour to be?
Yeah. So like a good way to think about it is kind of, if martial arts is the discipline that prepares you to fight in a fight or flight situation, parkour is like the discipline that allows flight in that situation, to get out of danger, to get over any obstacle that's in your way, across a broad movement spectrum of being able to crawl on the ground, roll, climb stuff, jump stuff, leap, sprint. But it's within that environment, being able to overcome obstacles from point A to point B. And in that context of kind of a fight or flight situation, it's that skill that allows you to do that. So it kind of, if you're really serious about your ninja training, you gotta be able to fight, and you gotta be able to get away from danger when it's needed.
Nice. So when was the first time that you competed on American Ninja Warrior?
That was 2012. Have been training with my training partner for like 6 or 9 months or something. This is back. You had to submit a kind of a best of highlights reel. It's probably still the case, but he got on and he found out like a month before the show was being filmed. So I assumed I wasn't on, and we're sitting watching TV one night. It's like a Tuesday. Get a phone call, and American Ninja Warrior called like 3 days before filming. They're like, "Hey, can you get down to Venice to come down here?" So I was actually totally overtrained because I didn't think I got on. I just kept doing what I was doing, and this was like we're doing 25-pound vests, legless rope climbs, just like totally beast upper body stuff to prepare for it. And because I didn't think I got on, I was like, well, I'm just going to keep getting stronger. And normally, like if I knew I was going to be on, I would have stopped probably 2 weeks ahead of time, let my body cool out. But my lats were like so shredded, and I made it through the course. You only get one go. It's like you're there. There's no trial, no pre-run or anything. Make it up the warp wall, and as I reach up, I dislocate my right shoulder, but still held on, and was able to basically do like a one-arm muscle up with my other arm to get up the warp wall.
Awesome. You kind of claim to fame on American Ninja Warrior.
Yeah, and because it was good TV, because it was a gnarly injury, of course it made
Right.
it on TV.
I will. I'll have to link that video in the show notes so that people can check it out.
Yeah, for sure. They did me wrong. They labeled me a different person, but I'll get you the right one.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
That was back in 2012.
Yeah. And spun out of that experience, I connected with one of the top parkour coaches, Ryan Ford, and we partnered on a book called Parkour Strength Training that came out in 2016. It's still selling strong. It's really great kind of body weight strength and conditioning manual, specifically for parkour athletes, but it's really killer, great instruction, really clear imagery of the type of workouts that get you stronger for parkour or to use parkour to get stronger. Yeah, it was 2016, still selling. We had it translated into Chinese. Made a debut in China a couple years ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was your first book?
That was actually number 3.
Number 3.
Yeah, the one before that was called the Mat Skills Exercise Encyclopedia. That came out in 2012, and released the second edition in 2018 or 19, something like that. And currently working on a third edition, hoping to come out next year sometime.
You talk about that book a little bit?
Yeah, that book. I grew up in the 80s, had a love for a certain aesthetic of these old school exercise encyclopedias. Gold Gym's had one, Arnold had his, Bill Pearl is another. These kind of classic tomes of here are all the movements you can do. So I had an appreciation for that type of book, but also coming from a gymnastics background and physical therapy, there's like a whole litany of movements that didn't exist in kind of the public consciousness for daily use at that time. I started working on the book probably in like 2009. So really incorporated much more like body weight calisthenics type movement, parallettes, high bar rings type of stuff that weren't making it into those kind of older school exercise encyclopedias. So over the years, I've taken thousands of pictures and had them manually illustrated in this really nice kind of black and white design. Current count is like 1,700 illustrations. So the third edition will probably have somewhere like 1,400 illustrations in there.
A lot of exercises.
There's a lot, yeah.
How many of those do you feel like you regularly practice or include in your own training programs?
Yeah, I kind of try to include some off-color ones periodically. Well, just started CrossFit about 18 months ago. There's a lot of exercise variety that comes in that way for sure. And that's certainly expanded my movement repertoire, different types of movements. Wasn't as familiar with all the barbell lifts and kind of the nuances of different barbell lifts.
Yeah, so you're very familiar with a lot of the gymnastic stuff, I'm guessing, but a lot of the barbell stuff is newer.
Yeah, totally. I can do kind of the big stuff, but the progressions to get into cleans and snatches and stuff was it's been a learning curve for me.
So you have a vast fitness background and a lot of body weight type stuff. Started CrossFit about 18 months ago. What's that been like for you?
It's been really good. I would say I was CrossFit curious for the 10 years prior. We moved out to Maine 3 years ago, but the prior 20 years I was in Oregon and always had my own garage gym and really stacked up. I had like 400 pounds of steel for barbell lifts, full suite of kettlebells and kind of body weight strength set up in the gym. And little, I was pretty cost conscious back then. The cost of joining a CrossFit gym was kind of a turn off. Plus, I just had the accessibility of having it in my house. With the garage back in Oregon, we'd have people come over and do group workouts on our own. But the move out here and then being a remote worker, kind of realized there's probably a real benefit to joining a gym at this point. We're living in a condo now too, so not having our own space to lift heavy, that was something I was definitely missing. So, it's partially like the community aspect, and also I could benefit from being pushed a little harder.
Those garage gym workouts back in Oregon, who was programming them, and like what did those look like?
Yeah, that was me. We'd meet like twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays, have people come over and be a surprise. But it's definitely just kind of probably push pull legs type circuit stuff. We'd generally do 10 minutes of warm up, a body weight exercise, calisthenics type movements, mobility drills, and then probably 30 minutes of a circuit, just kind of everyone switching positions. If you're working out in your gym, your garage gym, you don't have the array of weights for everybody. So we had one barbell, one set of adjustable dumbbells, one rings, one pull-up station. So we couldn't kind of, program the way a CrossFit gym does. It would be just, here's the movements, adjust your weights accordingly, and we'll work through it and then do some cool down together. So totally a strong proponent for that type of 10 minutes warm up, push pull legs type programming for the general population, and then some nice cool down, which is typically kind of more calisthenics. I always call cool down in quotes, calisthenics, and maybe some mobility at the end.
Do you incorporate warm up into your parkour training at all, or
Oh,
do you see that more as like you said, having the capacity to kind of jump right in? Like if you're in a fight or flight situation, you don't exactly have the opportunity to warm up. You just kind of have to go.
yeah. A cheetah's not stretching before they sprint off on the plains after the gazelle, right? They're just getting after it. No, I'm 46. I warm up like a madman for every activity, basically. Uh, Skateboarding, parkour, yeah. The risk of joint injury or just taking you out of your daily life advances the older you get. So, yeah, more warm up the better. Longer, more attention to what you're going to be doing, preparing your tissues. Totally conscious at this age of not having connective tissue injuries. Really protective of my Achilles, making sure those are healthy, and that's probably one of the biggest risks to protect in parkour is an Achilles injury, lower body injuries for sure.
I know you're a little protective of that shoulder that's been dislocated multiple times too, whenever it comes to some CrossFit movements.
Yeah, I was pretty nervous to work on snatches in CrossFit. That was probably one of the reasons I shied away from it. And just skilling in has been so important. Getting the motion down, staying really light. I'm not trying to compete with the young guys on snatches for anything. And yeah, I'm pretty guarded just because of that shoulder. I don't have great thoracic mobility there, but get around it.
You feel like your confidence is building the more you do it?
Yeah, 100%. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been great to jump into the workouts that have, 20, 30 muscle ups too. That feels pretty good. That
Ri-
gymnastics muscle
r-
memory is coming back.
Ring or bar?
Either.
Which do you prefer?
Historically, it had been bar, just because I didn't have a ring set up that was tall enough. But kind of enjoying the extra degrees of motion that the rings allow. Don't feel like I don't have to compensate as much on the rings. Feels less inclined to chicken wing on it. You can't kind of get by on the stability of the bar. You have to be a little cleaner because the rings are moving independently. So I think it probably focuses a little bit better on technique to be free hanging like that.
Yeah, for sure. You can't rely on the stability of the bar, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes the complexity of that movement feel takes the muscle up to another level.
Yeah, it's interesting, kind of watching um, CrossFit athletes talk about uh, what is the fault that's avoided. It's like toes hitting the bar first or breaking the plane of the bar.
Yeah,
And kind of a kip.
toes can't go above the bar.
Yeah, I don't think I ever came close to that, but that was how we would get above the bar in gymnastics. You basically kip to get up. Gymnastics, you're not training muscle ups as a skill. It's just how you get up above the bar to be doing the thing that you're doing, or from below the parallel bars to above the parallel bars. It's that moving from the lowest hang and through the lowest dip up above the bars and rings. So yeah, that's kind of interesting to notice that, where I definitely do get my hips up there and kind of just a natural kip to get up. So
Yeah,
I'd always considered that like a strict one, because I had never, my shoulder mobility doesn't allow me to kind of do the big kip swing that's so common. My kipping pull-ups are horrible. Um, Definitely can't butterfly pull up from that mobility.
yeah. I've heard from some other gymnasts that getting used to not glide kipping on bar muscle ups was an adjustment.
Yeah, I probably do. I don't think I break the line. I haven't been called out on it, but there definitely is that kind of lean back, drive with the hips first, for me at least. Yeah, what was your progression to them?
Bar or ring?
Either.
So I got my bar muscle up first, and that was a lot of trial and error with terrible form and technique using bands until I finally got correct mechanics down.
Mm-hmm.
I think I actually started studying film of some CrossFit athletes who are very proficient in gymnastics
Mm-hmm.
and seeing exactly what they were doing and then just trying to replicate that
Do you ever film yourself?
sometimes.
Yeah, I find that.
Well, actually, a good bit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
since I've started documenting a bunch of exercises and some exercise progressions and things like that.
Yeah, I find filming yourself is so eye-opening, exposing.
Yeah, definitely eye opening. And then ring muscle up. I was actually taking the CrossFit Level 1 trainers course. And during that, they kind of walk all of the participants through a strict ring muscle up progression. And it includes a seated, like L sit, low ring, strict muscle up variation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to do that a couple times. So whenever they
Mm-hmm.
transitioned to the high rings, they kind of like called me out, told me that I pretty much had to try doing a high ring, strict ring muscle up.
Mm-hmm. So
And that,
kind of
and
take away
that
the
was
L
my
position.
yeah, that was my first one.
Yeah. I mean, so clutch is getting that good false grip. Fundamental. I have a base bar set up. I don't know if you're familiar with that for a home gym, but in the condo, you can't hang a pull-up bar on the wall. So I just have a freestanding kind of pull-up station, but luckily it's tall enough to hang rings from it, gymnastics rings. And it's been nice to be able to train kind of low muscle ups like that. Exactly what you're talking about from an L sit, but just hammering that false grip and rolling over and up and down. It feels really good. Nothing like that pump for your triceps.
right? And I think just that low ring stuff, like you were talking about warm up, the low rings, practicing those transitions, doing some ring dips and things like that, warming up for the high rings is about as good of a warm up as you can get.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you talk us through a Ben typical warm up for CrossFit gymnastics type stuff?
Yeah. So probably pay really close attention to my Achilles health. So whether I'm skateboarding or going out for a run or um, a CrossFit class, probably a couple minutes before I'm doing like ankle hops, practicing the single leg hops, and then kind of box hops on the 1 foot, forward, back, side to side, diagonal, diagonal, both directions on both legs, just for a couple minutes to get the reaction going, get the proprioception going, see how the Achilles are feeling that day. All the box jumps and stuff that we're doing in CrossFit, super mindful that not feeling anything that leans towards Achilles tendinopathy. Knock on wood, haven't had it, but like super mindful that that can be the precursor to problems down the line. And then for my shoulders, doing a lot. I've had multiple shoulder surgeries on my left side, and then I've been having some rotator cuff tendinopathy on my previously good side, the left side. So I'm doing a lot of kind of Cuban rotations in before classes starting, and isometric external rotations on the rig just to get the cuff fired up and ready for action. I actually recently bought some crossover symmetry bands, which have been pretty sweet to play with. Generally, just had other pull-up bands and stuff, but having the crossover symmetry ones has been nice. Definitely see the benefit of those. So I've been trying to incorporate them into my home stuff, not necessarily at the gym, but doing a lot of resisted Ys and Ts and stuff.
Nice. So where can people go to find out more about you, about your books?
I'm on Instagram, Ben Musholt. Been on Threads, been active on Threads lately, got off Twitter, but Threads has been pretty fun. Seems like there's kind of more community engagement over there. Same thing, Ben Musholt. The Mad Skills book, you can download the entire PDF of the second edition. So that's like 1,000 exercises. And there's 3 workbooks that come with it. One is like body weight, one is kind of home workout with kettlebells and dumbbells, and then the other one is more garage gym, including barbells and kind of things you have to hang from the garage. But that whole package is at madskillsbook.com.
Is that available on Amazon too?
Yeah, all the books are independently available on Amazon.
Any other parting words for our audience?
Yeah, I guess you have such a interesting career trajectory, being a private practice owner and president of the Maine PTA. I'm kind of wondering what your thoughts are the state of physical therapy or fitness, perhaps in the state of Maine, perhaps nationally, but you're kind of at a neat confluence in your position and kind of your professional life. Wondering kind of what's on your mind lately with what the future holds.
Yeah, so for those who might not be aware, I am currently the sitting president of the Maine chapter of the American Physical Therapy Association. Yeah, so funny you should bring that up. So in 2023, we actually had a really big legislative year here in the state of Maine. we had 3 separate bills that we introduced to the legislature all pass. One of those was a bill kind of battling some of the restrictions that commercial health insurance companies put on PTs. So that was a big win. Another one was a bill helping us to enter what's known as the PT Compact. It was essentially a group of states who make it easier to obtain PT licensure in states that belong to the compact, which is helpful for things like telehealth, because you have to be licensed in the state where the person you're treating physically
Mm.
is. So, say I wanted to treat somebody in New Hampshire via telehealth, I would have to have a New Hampshire license in order to do that, even though I'm licensed in the state of Maine and they're our neighbor. And then our third bill was modernizing the Maine Physical Therapy Practice Act. So essentially, the document that governs what we can and cannot do as a profession, which hadn't been updated in close to 30 years. It was definitely time. But some of the things that we changed in that revolved around things like direct access restrictions. So, meaning that a patient can come see us as physical therapists without a referral from their doctor. Previously, there were some restrictions around that, such as the length of time we were allowed to treat somebody. But we were able to get some exemptions put on that, specifically for individuals who work in the fitness and wellness, injury prevention, those kinds of fields. So I think like the whole movement towards physical therapists being the kind of point of entry contact for some neuromusculoskeletal injury type things is definitely on the forefront. Um, and I've seen a big movement in the cash practice for PT, specifically because most individuals who have health insurance, their deductibles are crazy high. So unless they've had a surgery or something, they're going to end up paying out of pocket for the majority of their therapy, anyways. So they want somebody who is familiar with what they're trying to get back to doing and want a specialist kind of in that area. But those are the big things I've been seeing.
That's massive. The increased ease of PTs to reach patients out there, and the ease of patients to find physical therapists. That's super helpful. The compact stuff's interesting too. That open up kind of telehealth across state lines. That's cool to think about.
Yeah. But
Applaud your leadership there.
Yeah, tried. Yeah, most people think that they need a referral for PT. So they end up going to their PCP, which might be a couple weeks wait to get in for an office visit there. Then their PCP might end up sending them to like a sports med or a specialty physician. That's another wait. That person might send them for x-rays or an MRI to ultimately refer them back to PT several weeks, if not like months down the line, when they could have just started there in the first place and started that journey towards getting better.
Yeah.
So I think our healthcare system is a little bit messy in terms of expediting treatment and getting to the correct individual. So these types of direct access things, as long as the public's aware of them, I think can really help, especially on the musculoskeletal side of things.
Yeah, I mean, PTs, of course, are trained to identify when to refer out. So you can come to PT first, and if there's reasons why you need to see an additional specialist. PT will help you identify that, but close the loop on
Yeah,
the
for
rehab
sure.
process faster is better for sure.
Yeah,
Less being in that
definitely.
inflamed state, less longer is
Less time.
helpful.
Yeah, less time, less expensive in the long run
Mm-hmm.
because you're not paying for those extra office visits,
Mm-hmm.
extra diagnostic imaging that you might not necessarily need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did that answer your question about the PT side of things?
Yeah, for sure.
Or,
I
and,
I don't
and
know how
my
you I
role?
don't know how you juggle everything. That's a lot on your plate.
I don't know either sometimes, but I'm in I'm in the last year of what ended up being two-year terms,
That
and
is a haul
I technically cannot serve another term according to our bylaws. So
by law. Dan must leave.
technically,
You're not gonna pull a dictator move and extend your presidency indefinitely on behalf of the.
no, no dictatorships here.
uh, no, as all speaking for all licensed PTs here, thank you for your work there.
Yeah, no problem. I after moving here, I knew there were some changes that needed to be made, and some goals that I had, um, as far as my participation in the chapter. So I think I've met those goals. So it's time to pass things on to somebody else so that they can kind of see out their vision.
That's got to feel nice to have seen it all the way through like that.
Yeah, it is. It's rewarding. It's difficult and frustrating at times, but seeing some of the change that we've been able to bring to the state has been
I'm president of our HOA, and that's frustrating. I can't imagine being president of a professional organization at the state level.
yeah, it's difficult at times. But again, uh, what's the saying? Anything worth doing is difficult, or something along those lines.
This is true. Yeah, you need to be the change you want to see, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Well, Ben, thank you so much again for hopping on.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, Dan.